chain, we actually make carbon dioxide. Right? So the terminal CH, the terminal alkene will give you carbon dioxide. Alright, so let's look at, again, concentrated KMNO4 in the presence of a base, and usually you heat this up a little bit, and you actually break the carbon double bonds and form our two oxides. If I have ozone, ozone instead will form an aldehyde instead of a carboxylic acid. So the difference between the two is that ozone will give us aldehyde, KMNO4 gives us the carboxylic acid and the carboxyl. Alright? So that's this one. Let me see. Yep. Alright, so I will summarize all of these. So we're going to talk about all the addition reactions. So that, other than polymerization, that's the end of our addition reactions. We'll talk about polymers in a few minutes, but I want to summarize it so that you guys will know what to do. Alright, so these are, and I'm doing this from the top of my head, so hopefully I remember all of them. So these are all our addition reactions. Alright, this is sort of a summary of all the addition reactions that we talked about in the last 2 weeks. Alright? So, alright. So if I have an alkene, right, and I want to make, right, the first one that we talked about was halide, right? So if I have an alkene and I want to make an alkyl halide, right? So alkyl halide, you have two options you can do. You can have a mono substituted or a di substituted. Right? So alkyl halide, remember what an alkyl halide is? An alkyl halide is simply where we take a halogen and add it to the double bond, right? So if I want a mono-substituted alkyl halide, right, to go from the alkene to the alkyl halide, and I'll use a different color, we need to use some sort of halogen halide, right? So to make our alkyl halide mono-substituted, we use a halogen halide. Alright? If I want to make a di-substituted, then I just use a halogen. So X just represents a halogen. So X could be chlorine, bromine, iodine. Right? So these are just examples of what X is. Right? So to make that mono-substituted alkyl halide, I use a halogen halide, and in the other one I use di-substituted. In terms of regiochemistry and stereochemistry, so that's the things that we have to talk about. Regiochem, stereochem, right? So this is where we have like some divergence, right? So for mono-substituted, I have two regiochemistry products I can make. I can make Markovnikov, or I can make anti-Markovnikov. Alright? So for regiochemistry of a mono-substituted alkyl halide, I can make a Markovnikov addition, or I can do an anti-Markovnikov. Alright? So to make the Markovnikov, right, addition of the mono-substituted alkyl halide, we just use the alkyl halide. That's just the basis, right? So we don't have to do anything different. Forms a carbon cation. You don't have to add anything. But to make antimacaulay alkyl halides monosubstituted, we have to use a peroxide. Remember, for you to make an anti-Markovnikov monosubstituted alkyl halide, you have to use a peroxide. Alright? Everybody following so far? Alright? Works? Alright. In terms of stereochemistry, alright, for stereochemistry of these give you racemic mixtures. Right? And racemic mixtures just means 50-50, right? Because we actually produce, like top and bottom, we get that racemic mixture. Alright? Everybody following that? Alright, so now let's look at the di-substituted. For di-substituted, we only have sort of, there's no regiochemistry because di-substituted means that it's on both carbons. So no regiochem, right? But in terms of stereochemistry, there is a specific type of stereochemistry for di-substituted, and it's always anti-addition. Right? So that's anti-addition. Alright, so that's a summary for our alkyl halides. To make our alkyl halides, we use that. Right? So now, let's move on. The next one, which is alkenes. 2 and so this is an alcohol. So these aren't diols. So diols we'll talk about different. That's what we ended with. So to make an alkene to an alcohol, we have a bunch of different types of reactions. So let's go through each one and see how we get there. So we have different reactions to use an alkene to an alcohol. So we can make an alcohol through acid catalyzed hydration. So that's one reaction. So acid catalyzed hydration. You can also make it, right? So acid catalyzed hydration. You can also make an alcohol through oxy, mercuration, demercuration. Alright? You can also make an alcohol, right? Through, you make sure I get all of them. That one you can also do it through hydroboration. And I'll explain how you go into hydroboration. I'll have 2 steps, right? So, and then there's also this one, which is a halohydrate, right? So we have 4 different ways you can make alcohols from alkenes. So you can make an alcohol from an alkene using these 4 different methods. So acid catalyzed, right? So regiochemistry. So for an acid catalyzed, we use, in this example, we use things like an acid, so any kind of acid. So this could be H2SO4, usually it's H2SO4, and then you use water, right? So So the alcohol, you use water, and you use the an acid, right, as a catalyst. For oxymercuration, demercuration, we have to use mercury acetate, right? And then we use, after we use mercury acetate, we have to use sodium borohydride, alright? So that's the important thing. That. For borohydration, we use BH3 in THF, right? So that's how we get the borohydride. And then from the borohydride, we can make an alcohol. It's so much. Right? From the borohydride, we can make the alcohol using hydrogen peroxide in a base. Right? Hydrogen peroxide in a base. And then for the halohydrins, you're simply using some sort of halogen, halogen with water, right? So the halogen in the presence of water to make the halohydride. All right, so those are our three. All right, so now let's talk about regiochem and stereochemistry. So for the first one, in terms of the acid catalyzed hydration, the regiochemistry is always going to be Markovnikov. Alright? So we will use for acid catalyzed hydrations, we have Markovnikov addition. Alright? The same is true for our oxymercuration, demercuration. Right? But one thing to note with the regiochemistry for acid catalyzed hydration is we have, what do we have when we use acid catalyzed hydration? What can we have? Rearrangements. Alright? We can have rearrangements. So you can have rearrangements, and that could be either through a hydride shift or a methyl shift. Right? And then for oxymercuration, demercuration, we get no rearrangements. Following so far? Alright, now let's look at the stereochemistry for these two. For acid catalyzed hydration, the stereochemistry is a sort of racemic mixture, right? Because we make a carbon ion and it adds on either side, so we end up with a racemic mixture, right? So that's important for us to understand that with acid catalyzed hydration, we make two of the enantiomers, right? In terms of oxymercuration, demercuration, we do get anti-addition. Alright? So not only is there no no rearrangements, but we do get Markovnikov with anti-addition. Alright? So that's Markovnikov with anti-addition. Alright? Questions so far? No? Alright, so then hydroboration is where things change and we don't have Markovnikov, we end up with anti-Markovnikov. Right? So we get anti-Markovnikov and then we end up with the stereochemistry is syn addition. So for hydroboration, we get the antimacaulay and we get syn addition. Alright, so now for the halogen here, the halohydrins, right, where we get the alcohols, we do get the same Markovnikov addition. So we get Markovnikov addition. And we get anti-stereochemistry. So regiochemistry, Markovnikov, anti. Alright, so these are for alkyl halides and for alcohol. So all of this information here are just a summary of making an alcohol or making an alkyl halide. Alright? So those are the ones that we talked about, right? And then sort of the next set is where we can make alkene to an alkene. Alright? So alkene to alkane will simple, right? There's only one reaction that we have, and the only reaction is hydrogenation. Alright? And in this case, regiochemistry doesn't matter, but stereochem is going to be syn addition. Right? So for the alkene to the alkane, hydrogenation, syn addition, this is where we have platinum, palladium, or nickel catalyst, and then we have the presence of H2. Right? Man, I can't believe I'm remembering this off the top of my dome. Alright, alkenes. So I would recommend y'all teach this to somebody else, y'all will remember it for real. Y'all will remember. If y'all teach these, like all of these, I'm sure y'all will remember. Do a TikTok video or something. Do something to remember, right? Alright, so now from alkenes we can make now diols. Alright? So we can make diols, and we have sort of two options. Let me put it like two options for making the diol. So to make the diol, we can do epoxidation. Alright? So epoxidation will require us to use MCPBA to make our epoxide. Right? So we make the epoxide first, and then we treat that epoxide with an acid catalyst and water. So we use MCPBA, right, to make the epoxide. So this makes the epoxide, and then we can, from the epoxide, we can make the diol using water and right? Again, there's no real regiochemistry per se, so our focus is more on stereochem. So in epoxidation, the stereochem is going to be anti-addition. Alright? So the stereochemistry is going to be anti-addition, so anti-stereochemistry for epoxidation. The other way to make diols is to use osmium tetraoxide, right? In the presence of H2O2, right? That's one. And then the other one is cold dilute KMNO4 in the presence of some base. Alright? And in this case, we get syn addition. Alright? So the diols that we can make from alkenes, we can use epoxidation or the osmium or potassium permanganate. Alright? And then the last group, we'll say alkenes. And we can make ketones, aldehydes, or carboxylic acids. Alright? So we're going to make, from this reaction, we can make alkene, so ketone, aldehyde, carboxylic acid, and we have sort of two mechanisms. So you have ozonolysis, and in this we use ozone in the presence, you use ozone as one, and then the second thing, we reduce the ozone with dimethyl sulfide. So ozone makes what we call an ozonide, and then we have to reduce that ozonide with dimethyl sulfide to make our thing. So in this one, we're not worried about stereochemistry because we're actually cleaving the bonds. So in this case, for ozonolysis, we make ketones and aldehydes. Alright? Alright. And then the last reaction that we concern ourselves with is strong oxidation using KMnO4. And in this case, so in ozonolysis, you make a ketone if this was a secondary, sort of a secondary carbon, and then this is a primary carbon, right? That's it. For KMnO4, we can make a ketone with the same secondary carbons, or you can make a carboxylic acid right, with your primary or dies or monosubstituted, or you can make carbon dioxide with a terminal alkene. Whoa, that's a lot. I'll use this for my own. So, I kind of did this because I kind of want you all to see everything that you guys are responsible for when it comes to alkene addition. Alright, so you have a whole bunch of reactions. So this again is beside looking at substitution and elimination. Alright, so you all really have a lot to study for from now until, so today is for Wednesday. Alright, on Monday we'll do a little bit of, we'll finish polymerization, alright, and we'll do a little bit of review, and then we'll have the test on Wednesday. Alright, yes, yes, all of this plus substitution and elimination reactions. Alright, so substitution and elimination reactions are now when you have alkanes, and the alkanes can become alcohols or can become alkyl halides, right, or become alkenes when it comes to elimination. So, anything else? Right? I think this is a pretty good summary. You guys are also responsible for all the mechanisms. Alright, so also know the mechanisms and yeah. Huh? Yeah.
Sir, what do you do with this? I just read KMnO4
summer, why even put yourself in that position, right? Know the difference between cold and dilute, and then the concentrated came before, right? So know that you have two differences, right? All right. I'll see you all on Monday.